welcome to another episode of my Lighthouse, your personal development podcast, where we share knowledge and insights into the journey to becoming a better version of yourself, especially as a believer, as a Christian, as a child of God. This is September. It's the beginning of a new month. And you know what happens in September? It's the school year, beginning of this new school year, and children have to return back to school. Parents start to make a lot of adjustments with their children's routine, adding that to their own routine. On today's episode, I'm going to be having a working mom with me, sharing from her experiences. I have Chiomah Momah. Chiomah Momah is a lawyer, a freelance writer, and a parenting advocate. She's the author of 4 books: First Day at the Big School, Fun Day at the Museum, Fun Trip to the Village, and Wisdom from Women. She's a mom of 4 children, and a lot of her experiences that she shares through her books, through her blog, through her social platform come from the wealth of knowledge and the experience that she's had. Welcome to this episode, ma'am. Good to have you.
Hello, I'm babysitting.
Yay.
And I don't have his routine figured out.
Absolutely, but it's all part of the beautiful journey of parenting and pretty much part of what we're going to be talking about today. But amazing, really good to have you, ma'am. So I know that you are a lawyer and you are a parenting advocate. I'm just wondering, just curious, how did you get on this parenting path? Like it's interesting to just you still practice interestingly, and that you're really passionate about parenting, you write about it, you speak about it. How did you get on this path really?
Okay, so yes, I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer in the public sector. So I've been doing a lot of legal stuff in the public sector, and that has been great. And as a working mom, obviously when you're working, one thing that always comes to your mind is, how am I going to juggle work with parenting, which can be a bit challenging. So I kind of found myself on this parenting train kind of by accident, because I've always been very passionate about my children. For me, even with my choice of jobs, I've always worked for governments, and that has been on purpose, because I wanted to make sure I had jobs that gave me time to spend with my children. And it seemed that government, the government sector offered those kind of jobs. So I've always, from day one, I've been blogging for 13 years. And I would always share stories of my experiences when I had house helps and all those struggles that come with raising children while you're working. So that's how I came into that. I would share stuff and people will find it really interesting. I would share different, techniques, share my own insight, things that I thought every parent knew or every parent was doing. And I found that some parents were like, oh no, this is really good. This is really great insight for me. So I just found myself in it, and I found, I would share stuff and people would say, oh, this is really great. Oh, this is fantastic. Oh, and things that I thought every parent knew what to, knew to do. So it was actually really, really great insight for me. That's how I started sharing stuff, and parents would give me feedback and say, oh, this really inspired me, this really helped me. And I just started to talk about it more. And the more I spoke about it, the more the passion grew. And I like to say now that, 2 of my major passions are making policy, because that's what I love to look at in the public sector, is how policies are made, and parenting, because it's just, for me, no matter what heights you get to in life, you would never be fully happy, if your children don't turn out well, if you're not able to parent them effectively. So yeah, so that's it. Not saying I'm not a perfect parent, but anyway, I'm still learning a lot.
Jeez.
But
no one is perfect.
I have my 3-year-old nephew who is just not leaving me alone. And
Absolutely.
then I have my almost 18-year-old son who still needs to be parented, and who still comes in to talk to me, and and we discuss a lot and all that about his plans. So it's an amazing journey, and yeah, I'm glad that I'm able to assist parents as I work on the journey myself. It's been quite
interesting. Maybe just to also let people know, and talking about how you balance, right now, parenting is, we're having this podcast recording and we have a little baby in the middle, and it's just amazing how, as parents, children are just part of our lives, and you can, it's especially for women, sometimes men are like, I can't, but as a mom, that's a part of your life, right? So it's totally normal, I would say. And it's interesting you mentioned policy, and just while you were speaking, I kept thinking to myself, I've been lucky to work in organization at some point in my life where when I still had my children really little, and I would think of, okay, where do I put them now that I'm getting back to work? And my organizations had a crèche or a place, a place where you could bring your child to and breastfeed your child, and it wasn't a problem. You could just take a couple of minutes off your desk, go breastfeed, come back. I thought that was really beautiful. But I also know that there's so many people who don't necessarily have access to those kind of things. And it's such a struggle for women after having their babies and all. So maybe just a tip as we move along is, you're into policy. Maybe you want to start to do policies or work on policies or advocate for policies that support more time for women, or organizations create rooms for moms.
Definitely, that's one thing. I'm like in my office, for instance, that was one thing. I was, they had this room for working for breastfeeding moms, for moms with young children, nursing moms, and it wasn't conducive. It didn't look good. And I had to meet the lady in charge. I said, ma'am, I don't have a baby at the moment, but this is not working for people. This is just not a good idea. And then I took time to find out other organizations that had nicer facilities, public sector. And I told her, look, this is what I found. And I did, and I wrote to her, I wrote to the, to one of our executives and said, look, this can be done better. And I'm happy to say that they took up my, what I suggested, and they did improve in-house crèche. Don't just say, there's no facility like that in this place. In my office, it wasn't built in. It was constructed without that in mind. They had to find somewhere in the building and convert it to a crèche, and it worked out, and it wasn't good enough. I had to talk and say, what, can it be improved? And it was. So let's all, not be afraid to speak out and say, look, in our small spheres, speak to government, speak to whoever it is and say, look, this can be worked on. Women need access to such things,
Yeah, it's nice to hear. I'm really glad, and hoping that more people are able to speak up for things like that. So sometimes I think of it and flipping it a little bit and looking at that overall sphere of parenting. Very often we're thinking of the mom, we're thinking of, because it's the mom who bears the biggest burden, really. What about fathers? How can fathers fit into this whole conversation of like managing their children, working dads, working moms? How can they step in to support and just help kids?
I am you can see how excited I am as you're saying that, because it's like, and I would say that you're in North America, so you know how it is. I'm sure you can testify that your husband is doing far more with the children now than he did when you were in Nigeria. It's just because the society encourages it, and really, how much help can you afford to have in the developed world? How is it looked at? Is it looked at as a woman's job only? Yes, even in those societies, it's still the women that do more, for sure, when it comes to spending time with the children and raising and all of that, for sure. But in Nigeria, especially, a lot of them are saying, it's a woman's job. The men are not encouraged to be part of it. And when I say encouraged by who? By their wives. A lot of times, the wives act as if their husbands cannot do anything.
Right.
So they don't even encourage them to do it. I don't know how to hold the baby. Okay, bring. In fact, when they're even holding the baby, they'll say, the baby's neck is this. And if you had no one to help you, allow him carry his child. But because we have, you have Nike here to help you, you have your cousin, you have your mother, you have all sorts of people all over the place helping you. And it's changing now, because you can't even get help so easily. And people are suffering because they want to do everything themselves. So yes, the men have been spoiled to an extent, but even the wives, the women, the mothers, do try and insist more on your husbands, your spouses helping you out with the children. If you don't tell them they can do it, they will not believe they can. A lot of them feel that they've been raised to feel that, look, it's a woman's job anyway, so it's not for me to do. So you have to help correct that abnormality by saying, look, first of all, you can do it. Help. Can you help with this, honey? Can you help with that? And the men themselves, if you're listening, even if your wife doesn't ask you anything, this is someone you love, this is someone you're choosing to do life with on your own. You should see that this person needs help. This is not a one person's job. I always tell people that I admire. I don't know how single parents do it. The 1 year I was in the UK with my 2 youngest children, it was really crazy. Or you just want to even say, oh, please, can you hold him for a while I do the dishes or whatever. So learn to normalize that. Looking after a child is a joint responsibility. Back in the day, it was the men that only used to work, women stayed home. Now women are working, women are also contributing financially to the household. So men, you also have to do the same. It's no more, those lines are beginning to blur. Yes, you're still the head of the home, yes, you're the man, yes, you're the XYZ, but you have to help with the chores. A woman cannot go out all day, work all day, the same way her husband is working intellectually and physically, and come home and the full brunt of the children is on her. That's really not fair. You have to do your bit. Help with the chores, help with with giving the children a bath, help with their homework. Go for open day. Open day is not only for moms. Go for parent teacher conferences. They didn't say mommy teacher conferences, because most of you go there, you see is 99% moms. What happens to that? And it's because they feel the women are capable. So my husband, for instance, I remember, when I was away, his school, the school, they were like, oh my God, your husband was so fantastic. He was always in school. He attended every PTA. These were things he wasn't really doing when I was there, because I would always rush to do it. So after that, I started to learn to say, honey, this one, okay, there's something happening in school. Can you go this time? Or can we both go? Or I'm not, sometimes I will actually just step back and say, oh, honey, you do it. I'm going to the office. Can you handle this? And sometimes he would, and when he really couldn't, I would do it. But we need to also, ask.
Let's talk a bit about the challenges that working parents face. So now this is September, it's the new school year. There's a lot of challenge that comes with the new school year. Challenges around managing children, challenges around how do we get back to work? Like, okay, now I have to make sure that my children are going to school as well while I'm going to work. I have to do all of these things. So how do we then balance things out? So are there specific challenges that women and men, working parents, deal with at a time like this?
Like, you want to be there on your child's first day of school, but hey, you have a meeting 8:00 in the morning and it's so important. What do? You want to be there to, welcome them home on their first day, but hey, you have to be in the office. What do you do? I know these things happen ever so often. And I'll give you an example. Even today, I had to do, I was doing something at work. And I had to go back. I left the office. I had to go back to that. I was rushing to go back. And then my son called me, my 17-year-old. He called me and said, "Oh, mommy, I'm not really feeling well." And I was like, okay, let me rush to the office and tell them and then rush out. And I was just like, someone just told me that, you know what, call your office. And I was able to call my boss and tell her, look, this is what's going on. My son isn't feeling too well. And because I had told her in the morning that he wasn't feeling that well in the morning. It wasn't something new. And I was like, oh, he's still not feeling well. He even called me. So they were like, oh no, you know what, it's okay. Take off, we got you. Just go take care of him. That's what's important and all that. So, thank God for the kind of work environment I have, right? But some people don't have that kind of environment where you can actually tell your boss someone is not feeling well and they will listen to you. So these are things these are realities, that happen every day. You're faced with having to deal with, oh, this recital in school is so important, and then there's this meeting that if I'm not there, I will look unserious because it will be like, oh, it's only me that has children. Why am I always taking excuse?
You're the one always excusing yourself.
It's always exactly. Or there's a work trip and everybody is excited about going. You're like, oh, because of my children. They're like, wow, only you. And then after a while, they begin to overlook you when there's a trip, when there are trips, because they're like, she'll always give an excuse. Even when your children are grown and you're feeling more confident about leaving them at home with the nanny or with their daddy or with their mommy or whoever, they'll begin to overlook you. So it's really that thing of balancing and saying, okay, you know what? How can I show I'm a good worker? How can I show that my children are most important to me? Are very important to me, and I'm not going to neglect that. It's that balance which people say doesn't really exist. And I think people say that because really it's not a balance. It's not balanced to begin with.
Right.
Sometimes it's like this, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes you close late, sometimes you can close early. So with the parents, it's really about having your priorities. I think that's it, because the truth is that those days will come where you have to now make a decision. Okay, do I miss? Okay, there's this thing that's happening at work. It's really important, and there's this dental appointment today. It's really what do I do? Do I postpone the appointment?
Prioritizing.
Yeah, do I postpone the appointment and go for the meeting, or can I actually ask somebody to take care of that meeting for me? And the appointment is so easy, it's so important, it can't be postponed. You need to just sit down, actually think things through for a few minutes. Say, look, God, I said God, but the God factor is also very important too,
Yeah,
because those are
absolutely.
the things. Yeah, as you're making those decisions, because it's a lot, especially as you said, as school opens, there's a lot to do. They might be calling you to talk about something, your son's class, and you're like, okay, how do I manage? How do I do it? Come, leave the office on time and be there in time for whatever we need to discuss, and still get back to the office in time. Because if I don't, I need to clock out or whatever, do whatever in the office. So it's these are real experiences that a lot of working parents have, with prioritizing and making choices on the go, because sometimes you don't even have an hour to think about it. Sometimes it's like you have like literally 1 minute to say, okay, what am I doing? Am I going? Can someone cover? Can I do this? But the God factor is important, because God will really help you in terms of getting getting a career that can help you achieve the flexibility that you want. So you can still be a good parent to your children. And God will also help your children understand for those times when you're like, okay, you know what, I really have to, I'm working, can you just give me a minute? Or you know what, today just pretend mommy is not around because I need to finish this project and it's something really important. And tomorrow, I promise I'm going to spend time with them,
I'm
I'm going
going
to
to
make it
spend
up
time with you.
yeah.
Yes, I
So,
do. Like,
it's
don't
constantly.
worry, I'll take you out.
Exactly. And keeping those promises, because they will hold you to them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's it. So it's really just about that, and just asking God for grace every step of the way, because
Yeah.
and remembering that they're going to grow, that these moments are not always going to be there. My oldest is going to university now, where there's no open
Oh,
day,
wow.
there's no school
Amazing.
recital, there's no nobody wants me there. All I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
there is maybe if I want to visit him, but my presence is not really required, at that stage of education. So
I see where you're coming from. And even you have times where, unfortunately, this on the flip side for women, just like you were saying, sometimes things are happening in the office, or even a promotion, being considered for a promotion, and they say, oh, you are still raising children, you are still very little, you can't handle this position, or you can't. And it's like, why would you consider certain people less because they're managing their children at this time in their lives or in their career?
yeah,
Sadly, it's one of the things that sometimes people have
that
had to
working,
deal with.
yeah,
And
it's actually one of those things that working parents do have to deal with. That you're like, which is why I always tell people, put your best foot forward. I'm back with this job I have now. I always used to do school runs. I would always drop and pick up my children. I told my husband, this is a new job. I need to make a very good impression. So please, can you please do school runs for like the first few months? I still want to be that mom that they know that, look, my child has a recital. So, Oga, I've done all my work. I need to go. I'll be away for just 1.5 hours. I assure you, and I'll be back. So those are the things that you have to do sometimes. Make those sacrifices just until you have a firm footing in the office, so that they know that, okay, yes, she has children, but still she is quite diligent, she's quite hardworking. So if she tells you she's going for her child's thing, it's because she's very family oriented, and that's really commendable anyway, and she's dedicated to her job. So her going to going for this recital, or going to it's not going to affect the quality of her work in any way.
I was just even thinking that, what if from the moment you even got the job, you let them know that like, I would have to leave at this time because I have to go pick up my children from school, or I have to do this and that. I think that organizations should be more flexible where possible, really. I know it's tough sometimes.
They should be. They should be.
Ideal, they should be.
They should be. And it is because a lot of men don't do these things. That's why I like it when dads also are part of the whole school run, because it doesn't make it seem as if it's only the women that leave the office at a certain time. The men also have to pick up their children. So I like it when men do it as well. But like I agree with you. From day one, if you let them know, oh, I'm a family person, it's a priority for me. I have children. I have a friend who her children's pictures are on her table. So as soon as you enter the office, she has children. She's not rubbing in your face, but you know that her children are important to her. And you can have a discussion with your boss, like you said, say, ma'am, as in, there's no one else to pick them. My husband's job is like 2 hours away from the house. I'm the one that has to pick them. There's no one else that can do it. I would appreciate it if I could pick them up, even if it means me coming to work 20 minutes earlier to put in the next, those discussions can
Things
be
like
had.
that, and have those
Yeah,
negotiations up
yeah,
front.
those discussions could be had, or reasonably. The lady that works for me, my housekeeper, I remember she told me, oh, she like 2 Saturdays in a row, she had to do something in her children's school, and she just had a discussion with me and said, oh, please, and who am I to say don't go for your child's PTA? Because I was happy she was doing that, and that was important to her. I said, okay, that's fine. If you do it, can you come into work late? Can you come to work after work? What time are you going to? And we were able to work out something. And she's really hardworking. So she wasn't even someone I could even say no to. Yeah. So yes, those discussions could be had. And and one thing COVID-19 has done, you talk about the pros and the cons. One of the pros is that people are seeing that you can actually be more flexible at the workplace. People can actually don't have to be in the office all day and they can still deliver. So a lot of offices are actually allowing people to work maybe 1 week in, 1 week off, to work from home. Places where it couldn't even be discussed now. And that's really helping people. And I really hope that continues even into the school term when people will really need that flexibility so they can actually do more stuff with the children. Yeah.
Just as a wrap up this episode, I just want to, so we've said a few things about the God factor and, praying about the challenges you're experiencing, having conversations with your boss, maybe I would add seeking help where appropriate. Like you said, ask your husband, ask someone, help me hold the children. Or the other way, it could be the man who is managing. But either ways, you need to do these things. So aside this, are there other things that you would recommend as the ways to work around this, like possible ways to navigate the challenges that come with that new school year, and yet you still want to keep your career, you still want to keep your home and juggle everything together?
One thing I would advocate, and what I try to do, your vacation, your leave, for instance, if I'm taking my annual leave, I try to take it over summer, and I try to make sure a little of the leave spills into the beginning of the school term. That way, I can, if I want to sleep in school on the first day of school, I meet all the children's teachers and just spend the whole day there. No one's going to look for me. No one's going to say, where are you, ma'am? Because so look at your leave days. Look at if you can actually take a day off, or that first week when they resume school, especially if your child is starting school for the first time. And so see if you can take a few days off the beginning of term, if you can work your leave for that period. That really, really helps to be sure you're there to help them settle, that you're not rushing to the office. Another thing that you can do, which you also spoke about, is telling your boss and negotiating from the beginning, look, I have children, I'm really grateful to have this amazing job and be in this amazing community here, but these children are really important, and I would appreciate it if you could give me this time off or allow me to do X, Y, Z. I had this lady who I know she had to pick up her children from school. So if the office closed at 4:00, I think what she was able to work out was that, I have to pick up my child from school on so and so days. Okay, can you put in 30 minutes more in the office? I'll allow you to do whatever you need to do, but because of clocking out and all the hours. And she was like, okay, fair enough. And she started doing that. So the day she will pick up her child, she will close early. And the day she wouldn't pick up her child, she'll put in 30 minutes extra to make up for the time, when she was away. And that thing that could really help, as children start school, is getting lovely notes written out to them. It could be scripture cards, it could just be handwritten notes saying how much you love them, saying how much you hope the term is going to be a good term for them as they start a new term or a new session, and put it in their lunch boxes or in their bags. So after school, they have that to look forward to, and to remember that mom and dad really does love them. And even though they're not with you, they still care about you, and they're still there with you through the day. Another really cool thing that really helps with the new school term is having your child, their teacher, or having their details, have their contacts. That's something that is really important. You need to be able to communicate with your child's teacher. So even if you're not in school, as soon as that should be one of the first things you do. You meet them, get their number, so you can, they should feel free to reach out to you if there are any challenges with your child or anything they need to know. Especially as it's a new term, tell them your child. You can be upfront and tell them, oh, my child struggles with this. My child has this. My child is really great at this, and that gives the teacher something to work with, especially if it's a new person that has never encountered your child before. Something that really helps as the child starts the new term is volunteering in the school. Okay, because that way the school knows you care, and they are more open with you, and you get to see your child more when you go to, for school events. So that's really, really cool thing to do, to have, spend more time with your child while you're navigating work as well. And another thing that you can do really, which is really, really useful, is engaging with your HR. If you have a good HR that listening HR, you can talk to them about how important it is to have a workforce that is, let me just look for a way to say it. If your workforce, if a mother's mind is at rest, if she's not just thinking about her child every second, she'll be more committed to work. So you can make those suggestions and say, look, it's back to school time, but you also need to consider allowing your moms to either have a creche in-house or be able to leave the office to pick up their children or whatever it is. Have those discussions. Talk to the parents in your establishment and find out what are your pain points and talk about them and see how you can work with them. Also get your children on a routine. When school opens, one thing that helps with work-life balance, you can see me, if I knew his routine, I don't know his routine, he would have been in bed by now. Because when they're on a routine, it's easier for you to, after work, do what you need to do with them and get them to go to bed. So you can do whatever you need to do for yourself as well before the next work day, get them organized. Another thing that really helps with work-life balance when the children go back to school is having all those little charts and planners. I made some recently, and they are really, really good because it really helps you know that, okay, this is what this child does at this time, this is what mommy does at that time. It really helps you. Being organized is really one of the greatest things to help you save time, help you make the most of your time, the most meaning of your time, and just it helps you just stay calm in all the chaos of getting ready to school, for school in the morning, rushing and all of that. And that happens a lot. You're rushing. Someone said one day, which of you doesn't shout in the morning when you're getting ready for school? And it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to. Where's your shoe? But so those charts and those planners really do help. So everybody knows their morning routine. They know what time they're supposed to be up. And the key is consistency, because I'm even talking to myself. It's like, for us moms that go to work, getting your clothes out yourself as a mom a day before. If you're going to the office, what I do, there was a time I used to get my clothes organized for like 3-4 days. It really did used to help me. Now the best I do is a day before, which is still very good. At least the night before, get out what you're going to wear. It's not in the morning that you all be, everybody's rushing.
And you're rushing to find.
You're rushing, and then you get to work stressed, and then your boss upsets you, and next thing it's time for pickup. But if you start your day organized, trust me, it helps a whole lot. Knowing that you have a time for everything, there's time for this, there's time for that. You go out, you enter your day happy, you leave your day happy. And then, of course, just committing everything to God, committing the school term to God, praying about it, praying about your child's teacher, praying about your boss, that you have an understanding. There's some bosses you have that will be so understanding that when you say, oh, look, this is what's going on, there won't be any issues. They will take it, they will understand, and they will be the first to say, oh, please go and take care of that issue. Go to your child's school, go and pick them up, because they understand that, look, you can't just leave your child stranded. So I think those are all my recommendations for now.
Those are beautiful. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, I'm sure that we've all been inspired and just blessed just listening. I like the points you raised about seeking help where possible, the place of praying about the situation, even before the children get back to school, praying for them. I love the part about writing notes, just taking notes and writing notes for them, putting it in their lunch boxes and things like that. I think one thing I'll add also is just making deliberate attempts to make that time. So even after work and everything, just making some time to then check in on them, spend some time with them where possible. But as much as possible, the school year can be a time where children need parents more than ever. There's a lot going on for them in school. There's a lot of attention that they need. And it's important that children get that attention, no matter how much of work that we have, no matter how busy that we are. If it means just taking permission from work, if it means making that time deliberately, let's do that.
I just thought of something that takes our time: your social life and your social media. Those are two things. So, when your children are back to school, you might not have as much time to socialize, and that's fine. There's time for everything. And you might not have one thing that my children harass me about is like, mommy, this is your phone. A lot of times I say I'm working on my phone, but still you have to cut back on the work. make them know that how important they are. So, you have to make some sacrifices. Some people don't like the word sacrifice, but they feel it means that like you're suffering. No, you're not suffering. It's just that there are other things you can do, but because you have these children and because it's the school term and they need you and they have to go to bed at regular times and there's so much more work to do, you have to put the effort. If it means you not spending as much time on the phone, not going to all the parties you'd have loved to go to, it's worth it. It's worth the effort, because at the end of the day, the children will know that they are important. You'll be able to achieve so much more with them, and you'll be happier as well with how they turn out.
Amazing. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for making time to be here. So for everyone who connected and has followed us through, I hope you learned a thing or two from this episode, the importance of just spending time, the importance of, just making whatever sacrifices, just like the guest has said, making sacrifices doesn't necessarily mean that one is suffering or one is going through a bad situation, but it's just those adjustments that we need to make at this time, especially at a time where we are working and then we have children who are in school. Let's continue this conversation. Follow at my Lighthouse podcast on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and let's have this conversation. If there's something that struck you from the episode you'd like to speak about, you'd like to talk more about, please by all means, we would love to hear from you. And until the next episode, please stay in God, keep growing, and keep pushing yourselves to be a better version of you. God bless you.